In this lesson, we're going to be learning how to graph quadratic inequalities, but we're going to do it in vertex form, okay? So maybe you've already watched my videos on how to graph quadratic inequalities, but in that lesson, maybe we used standard form, but now we're going to use vertex form. Just a reminder, we're not going to look at any intercepts. There are going to be lessons that we'll do at a later stage where we learn about the x-intercepts, y-intercepts. Now we're just using symmetry to draw the graphs. And just a quick reminder, in case you haven't watched my previous lesson on standard form, remember with inequalities, the inequalities are when you have symbols like this, for example, or sometimes they look like this. And so there are two things that you need to remember. When they give it to you, first of all, the first thing we always need to look at is whether we are going to draw using a solid line or sometimes we're going to use a dash. So sometimes we're going to draw a quadratic inequality with a solid line, but then sometimes it's going to be a dash. So the way that we determine whether we should use a solid line or a dash is by looking at whether we have it like this or whether we have it like this. So when there is a little line at the bottom like that, you see the line at the bottom, then if it looks like that, you're going to use a solid line. When it's like this, so like this or like this, then you're just going to use a dash. Okay? Whoopsie, Kevin. Dash. Now the next thing we need to look at is whether we are going to shade above or below. You know, like when you have an inequality, maybe you've seen a straight line inequality. Okay? Now sometimes you're going to shade above, and then at other times you're going to shade below. Now the same thing is true with quadratics, which we're going to learn how to do now. A quadratic typically looks something like that. So we can also shade them above, or we can shade them below. And that's what we need to look at now quickly. So the way that you determine that, it all depends on the following. So if you have something like this, y is bigger than 3x squared minus 6x plus 1. Now this is the crocodile method that I sometimes speak about. Maybe you've heard me speak about it before. The way it works is you look at the inequality. Can you see that it's a crocodile's mouth? You can think of it like a crocodile's mouth. Look at that. It's got all these little teeth over here. Yes, that's like a crocodile's mouth. Now this crocodile, if you've heard this before, I'm so sorry, but this crocodile is a very hungry crocodile, and it's looking for a lot of food because it hasn't eaten for a very, very long time, and it needs to find as much food as it can. So this crocodile always likes to eat big pieces of food. Okay, it's such a lame example, but it works. So if you look at the crocodile's mouth, what is that crocodile trying to eat right now? Is it trying to eat this, or is it trying to eat this side over here? Well, I hope that you can see that the mouth is trying to eat this side over here. So what that means is that the y is the big side, and this here is the small side. Because remember, this crocodile is extremely hungry, so it's looking for the big food. Because maybe this crocodile's not going to have food for another like 3 or 4 days. So when you have a situation where the y is the big one, then you're going to shade above. When you have a situation where the y is the small one, then you're going to shade below. It's as simple as that. So here is our first example. So I hope that you've already watched the lesson where I taught you how to draw graphs, quadratics, using vertex form. Because remember, there's standard form and there's vertex form. So when you draw a quadratic, remember a quadratic looks something like this. So it has a turning point. You see that? It has a turning point, or we call it, some of you might call it the vertex. So step one, when you draw a quadratic, is to go find that. Step one is to go find the vertex. Now, maybe you've seen me where I use this formula x equals to minus b over 2a. We're not going to use that here. Why, Kevin? I don't understand, bro. You told me we should use that. That only gets used when the equation is written in standard form. That's when it looks like this. ax squared plus bx plus c. You know, the normal quadratic. That's when you use that formula. But when it's got this format over here where you've got the bracket to the power of 2, this is vertex form, so it's actually easier. The reason it's easier is the following. You need to know what this part does to the graph, this part here that has the square. That part moves the graph horizontally, or left and right. But you need to know exactly what this one does. So whenever it's a minus, that means right. Remember that. Minus means right. Kevin, that doesn't make sense, my bro. Minus usually means left, and then plus means right. In like, if we were thinking normally about this, like logically, you know, if you go to the right, that's plussing values, and if you go to the left, that's minusing. I know, guys, so this has been confusing students for 7,432 years. So I don't know, random numbers, but yeah, it's okay. So that means right, plus means left. You just got to remember that, okay? Then, so that's this part, okay? That's that part over there. So let's say this is the horizontal. Okay, I'm not going to fit that in. Okay, so that's that part. Now, this part here, this is vertical. This is vertical, so up and down. But now this one is normal. This one is pretty easy. So minus means down. That seems logical. Plus means up. You just got to remember that, okay? So, now, what you got to remember is that a quadratic, you can imagine that it starts over here. This is like the basic quadratic. This is called a parent's quadratic. It's the most basic quadratic you can ever get. And it has a vertex at 0, 0. So imagine that. Then all of a sudden, we're going to move 4 places to the right. Okay, so we're going to go 4 places to the right. And then we're going to go, we didn't even say here. So we're going to go 1 place down, 1 down. And why did I say 4 to the right? Because there's a minus. And when there's a minus, you go right. Okay, so we're going to go 1 down. So let's go 1 down. There we go. So where would the vertex be? Well, think about it. If you go 4 to the right, you'd be at 4. And if you go 1 down, you'd be at -1. As easy as that. Okay, so that's step 1 complete. Vertex. So, Kevin, you're saying we don't have to use any formulas to find the vertex. Not for this one, guys. Why? Because this is called vertex form. It already gives you the vertex. That's why we call it vertex form. Now, the next step is to use our table of values. If you've watched any of my videos on drawing quadratics recently, you would remember this. This is now step 2, and this is now, it's our final step. So, table of values. This is an easy step. So you just put X and Y, and then you make a table, and then you want to make 5 little parts of it. Oh, that's gonna look great. There, boom, boom. Okay, so you want 5 of them over here. In the middle one, okay? So the middle of 5, we all know we have a middle of 5. We have a middle finger. So we're gonna go put the vertex over there. So X is 4. Whoa, Kevin. X is 4, and Y is -1. Okay, now what you do? Now we use symmetry. Remember, we've spoken about this before. If you have a quadratic, they are perfectly symmetrical. Kevin, what does symmetrical mean? It means it's the same on the left and the right. So that means that if you go 1 place to the left of the symmetry and 1 place to the right, then these Y values are going to be identical. And if you go 2 places to the left and 2 places to the right, the same thing happens. Okay, so what I want you to do is go 1 place to the right, 5, 1 place to the left for the X values. There we go. Then I want you to go another 1 place to the right and another 1 place to the left. Wonderful. Now what you're going to do is you are going to choose either these two, or you can choose these two. It doesn't matter, but just don't choose all of them. You can if you want, but it's just going to take you a lot longer than what you need to take. I'm going to choose these two. So I'm going to start with this one. That's an X value. So I can now find the Y value by just plugging it into this equation. Notice we're not even worrying about the inequality sign right now. That only comes in at the end. So if I know the X value is 2, then I can now find the Y value. Because I can literally just take this X value of 2, plug it in there, and that's how we do it. So we can now say that Y is equal to 3, and then X is 2. There we go. Go ahead, type this all in on your calculator, and it gives us 11. Okay. Then let's do the 3. So all I'm going to do now is just replace this 2 with a 3. And we end up with a 2. Okay, so now you don't have to go do these ones. You just use symmetry. So check this out. When you go 1 to the left and 1 to the right, the Y values would be the same. So that's also a 2. Then if you go... Whoa, Kevin, what is going on? Let's put that stuff back. Then if you go 2 places to the left and 2 places to the right, then their Y values are also the same. So we can just put 11. Now we just go draw. Now, this is awkward. Why am I drawing the graph over here when clearly the elephant in the room is like standing right over here? So that's weird. So 4 minus 1. I did have a good weekend. I won't lie. So maybe I'm still recovering. I don't mean like drinking and stuff. I just mean it was an amazing weekend. I'll quickly tell you what I did. So I'm currently in South Africa, and this weekend there was a festival, like a music festival, sort of like a trance kind of festival, and it started on Friday, and promise you, did not sleep 1 minute on Friday night. Like, we literally, a bunch of my friends and I, we stayed up and the sun was coming up. Those are amazing moments, just like chatting and talking absolute nonsense, and suddenly the sun's coming up. So that was amazing. Then at around 12 o'clock the next day, lunchtime, I decided I have to go sleep because, like, I'm not going to make it the next night if I don't go sleep now. But the problem is we're in a tent, right? And it is so hot. Like, it is... okay, so in South Africa we use degrees, but I'm pretty good at converting. You know, I'm sort of into numbers, if you ever notice. So it was about 100 Fahrenheit. So... really hot. And so what happens is you're in the tent and there's no shade. So the tent's just the sun's just beating down on this tent, and you're like, like you can't sleep. You wake up and you're like sweating, and yeah, not great. So couldn't sleep. Luckily there was like this lake. So I got up, went and had a swim, woke up a little bit. Then at 3 o'clock, I couldn't keep my eyes open. So I went back to the tent and I did another 1 hour of sleep. And then you wake up and you get some food and everything. So it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But, you know, at these festivals, that music in the background just isn't stopping. It's just ba, 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 ba the whole time. It's like pumping through your veins. And then yeah, it was cool. Like, people were just dancing during the daytime on like this beach sand. It was amazing. And then it was nighttime, and suddenly you just have more energy. You're awake again. And yeah, so then we were partying like absolute crazy. Dance floor was packed. It was completely outdoor. There was no indoors. It was just outdoor. It was beautiful. And then what happened? Yeah, so then we were partying, and then partied all the way through until about 3:30 in the morning. Just meeting lots of people, chatting to them. It's just amazing. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to quickly go sleep now. Just go close my eyes for a bit. Then that was amazing because it was nice and cold. Because it's weird when you're at these like outdoor festivals where you like on like open land. It's super hot in the daytime, but nice and cold at night. Well, like not nice and cold, but if you have like a nice blanket and stuff, it's amazing. So I slept, but only slept for an hour. Then woke up 4:30. Headed back to the dance floor, and there were still so many people dancing. And that was it. Me and my one friend, we just completely like ripped it out on the dance floor dancing until sunrise again. And then yeah, stayed there until about 12. So yeah, it was just a crazy awesome weekend. And so yeah, I can't remember what the point of the story was. Oh, it's because I was drawing over here. So yeah, forgive me, I did not sleep as much as a normal human sleeps this weekend. So in total it was about 3 or 4 hours of sleep. So, and here it is Monday morning, and here I am making some lessons and some stuff for you because this is what I love to do. So onto the topic at hand. So 2 and 11 is over here. There we go. There's 2 and 11. Boom. 3 and 2. What's funny though is when you go to these festivals, there's that constant beat in the background, and I just keep in my head, it just keeps going the whole time. And then 4 and -1, and then 5 and 2. 5 and 2 is over here, and then 6 and 11. 6 and 11 is over here. See how we've got the symmetry that's happening. Those two are the same, and those two are the same. Okay, so now we're just going to... Okay, now wait, we can't actually just draw this thing, because now we have to remember that this is a inequality. So we need to look at two things, right? First one is we need to know whether we're going to go solid line, or dashed. So that's all about looking at whether there is a little line underneath like that, or whether it's completely open like that. So this one's completely open, so that means we're going to use dash. So let's quickly try to do this. There we go. The next thing we need to know is whether we are going to shade above. We're going to shade above or shade below. And this is where you look at the whole crocodile thing, right? So like, you got to see what the crocodile's eating, the big mouth or the small mouth. Whoa, the big mouth or the small mouth? No. You got to look at the crocodile's mouth and see if it's eating the big, or what the crocodile's eating. Okay, so this is the crocodile. That's its mouth. Look at that. What is it trying to eat? Is it trying to eat this side, or is it trying to eat this side? Well, it's trying to eat the Y. So what that means is that the Y is the big side, and then this side is the small side. And if you can remember correctly, when the Y is the big side, then you shade above. Okay, so we're going to shade above the line. So give me a few seconds. There we go. So something like that. Okay, and so we're just going to do maybe one more example, maybe two. I'll keep you posted up of like during the next example, we can see if we feel like we need to do another one. Here's our next example. So remember, step 1 is all about the vertex. Okay, I think we only need to do one more example because if you've watched my other lessons on quadratics, they're very repetitive. It becomes very repetitive. The only difference with this one and the previous lesson on standard form is literally how to get the vertex. The rest is the same. So yeah, step 1 is vertex. So remember, you don't use minus b over 2a. That's only if we were busy with standard form, but this isn't standard form. This is vertex form. So all you do is you look at this part and you look at this part. So remember that this part here that has the x, remember x is left and right, okay? Whereas this part is the vertical. So we're going to look at this part here, and remember that with that, negative means we're going right, and plus means we're going left. So what we're doing here is we're going 2 to the right. So we're going to go 2 right, and then we're going to go 4 up, 4 up. So remember, you always start at the 0, 0 position. That's where a vertex originates. Now we're going to go 2 to the right, boom, and then we're going to go 4 up. And there we have it. So we're going to put a little point there, and that's going to be our vertex. Wonderful. Step 2 is the table of values. Okay, so we're going to go x and y, and then we're going to put the vertex in the middle. So what was the vertex? 2 and 4. And then you're going to go 1 to the right and go 1 to the left, just for the x values. Then go another 1 to the right and go another 1 to the left. Okay, wonderful. Now what we're going to go do is realize here that we have x values. Okay, so we can go get the y values. But you don't have to do it for all 4 of these. You only have to do it for either these 2 or these 2. Don't go do it for all of them. You can if you want, but it's just going to be a waste of your time. There's a better way because we use symmetry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose these 2 over here, but obviously you can't do both of them at the same time. So I'm going to start with this. So I'm going to take that x value, okay, and I'm going to plug it into the x value over there, or the x place. And so that's going to be, I'm just going to say equals, and that's going to be 0, take away 2. Let's just do this. Negative 2, 0, take away 2, squared plus 4. And if you had to go work this out, you get negative 4. Negative 4. Okay, negative 4. Now we're going to go use a 1 in the x's place. So I'm just going to take this 0 out and replace it with a 1. Okay, and if you had to go calculate that one now, you get 2. So I'm going to put a 2 over there. Now you don't have to go any further. You don't have to go do these ones. You can if you want. It's not wrong, but it's unnecessary because of symmetry. Remember, we've said this many times. Quadratics have symmetry. So if you have your vertex right in the middle, then if you go one place to the right and one place to the left, the y values are going to be exactly the same. And if you go 2 places to the right and 2 places to the left, the y values are the same. You can go 3 places, 4 places, it doesn't matter. As long as you go the same distance on the right and the same distance on the left, the y values would be exactly the same. So what that then means is if this is the vertex, then if you go 1 to the right and 1 to the left, their y values would be identical. And then if you go 2 to the right and 2 to the left, their y values are identical. And that's it. Now we just go plot the points quickly. So 0, I'm plotting this one, 0 and minus 4. There you are. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. There you are. 3 and 2. There we go. And then 4 and minus 4. There we go. Now, we need to make sure whether we need to use, we need to know a few things now, whether we're going to use shaded, solid lines, or whether we're going to use shade above or below. So those are the two things we need to quickly check. So let's quickly see whether we're going to use a solid or a dash. How do we do that again? Well, the way that we do that is we look at the symbol over here. If it has a little line underneath, then it's solid. If it doesn't, then it's a dash. So this one's definitely a dash. Okay, so there we go. And then there we go. Okay, so we have that. The next thing we need to know is whether we are going to shade above or below. Above or below. Above or below. And this is where the whole crocodile mouth comes in. Crocodile. Okay, so remember that this is the crocodile. You see its mouth. Now, what is that mouth trying to eat? Is this crocodile trying to eat this side over here, or is it trying to eat this side over here? Well, if you look at the mouth is trying to eat this side. Now, remember that the crocodile always likes to eat the big side. So if that's the big side, then that makes this the small side. The y is the small side. Now, remember our little rules. When the y is the small side, then you shade below. If the y was the big one, then you would shade above. So we're going to shade below the line, so that's all of this over here. So let's quickly shade that for you. And there we have it. So that's it, guys. That's how we do vertex form graphing quadratic inequalities.